Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, the founder of Children's Alopecia Project, Jeff Woytovich. Jeff, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So I want to talk a little bit about your passion project, Children's Alopecia Project. Give a little bit of background. Why did you start CAP? And it's called CAP for short, just so our viewers understand. So we won't say Children's Alopecia Project the whole time. We'll refer to it as CAP. But give a little bit of background as to what made you start CAP.
Well, in 2003, my second oldest daughter out of four started to lose her hair. And at the beginning, we were scrambling to figure out why and how to get the hair back. And it was kind of a stressful time, as you can imagine. And then we find out that it's not deadly, it doesn't hurt. There's no other physical implications of negative effects. So when you really got to the bottom line of what alopecia is, it's just an autoimmune disease that causes your body to attack the hair follicles, paralyzing them, and then the hair just falls out. So we were relieved that there was nothing else that we had to deal with. So physically, it's really easy. Appearance-wise and visually, that's the devastating part, because now people will see that you're losing your hair. And that was the devastating thing, not so much for my daughter, but really for Betsy and I. And the only way that we could really get through it was to actually just jump totally into everything alopecia. And as we were doing that, we realized that we needed a support group. So then we started a support group, and then we realized that we needed more support groups. So we started more support groups. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not independently wealthy. We're going to have to start a nonprofit so we can help get more people involved with the support groups that we were having. And then boom, it just took off, because what we really wanted to be advocating for was not so much for a cure or for cosmetic cover-ups, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I thought that we needed and my daughter needed. What I thought was the most important part was her self-esteem. Without a high self-esteem, it doesn't matter if she has a head full of hair or no hair. If you don't have self-esteem as a kid, it's really hard to move forward into adolescence and adulthood with all the tools that God gave you. And I wanted to make sure that she had that. Plus, selfishly, I wanted to make sure that I understood that it didn't really matter if she had hair or not. And that's why we started the Children's Alopecia Project. We officially started it in 2003, but we became a 501c3 in August of 2004.
Yeah. So during that time when you guys didn't actually know why Maddie was losing her hair, what were some of the things that you guys were dealing with as a family? I'm sure it had to have been just the unknown at that point before you actually knew what was going on. Had to have been pretty trying, I would guess.
Well, I'm not very proud of it, but I try and stay as honest as I can. But it was not so much about a 5-year-old little girl. Obviously, I wanted her to have hair, but it was a lot to do with me as an adult who is a professional, who's out there involved with other charities. So therefore, the appearance of how I stood out, even though I'm a short little fat bald guy myself, I just didn't want to have that little perfect image of this perfect family to be changed in any way. And my wife has had alopecia since 1976, but she has the type of alopecia that 98% of the people that have alopecia have. She gets a bald spot someplace on her head every couple of months or every couple of years. And that's how infrequent it is. So we were dealing with what it should be. It should look like Betsy's alopecia. It should only be a a little spot. It shouldn't be her entire head and then eventually her entire body. It should be a spot. And then with Betsy, without the material stuff that I was thinking at the time, she's thinking, oh my gosh, I gave my daughter this alopecia and she's lost all of her hair. And all I do is get a tiny spot here and there. So it was, I really think it was ego, vanity on my part. And on Betsy's part, it was guilt. I mean, that's what we were dealing with more than anything at the very beginning.
Yeah. So as you kind of went through this journey from dealing with your own feelings and getting through that, what made you think it was important to actually have a support group for children with alopecia?
Well, prior to 2003, I don't think anybody would think that I was that support group kind of a guy, or therapy guy, or going to a doctor to talk about, anything. I was kind of that macho guy that just wanted to make money, work hard, and play hard. That's pretty much what I wanted. And I wanted to be a good dad, but I don't think being a good dad was ever anything that I really thought would get me further in life when it comes to me. It was always more to the outside. I wanted everyone to see that, hey, I'm a good dad. I take care of my kids. I do things with my kids. And I think in those days, it was really more for other people to see. And I think alopecia really made me realize that it has really nothing to do with anyone else. I mean, when you're presented something like that, and then you realize that there's no true illness or injury to the person that you love, all that material stuff and all that vanity and ego stuff disappears really fast. And I was just thankful that, okay, this is all it is. It's not cancer. It's not heart disease. It's not something that's horrible that I'm going to have to deal with. It's something that you can manage, and not so much the disease, but the fact that you can manage the situation and you can figure out what's most important. And the thing that's always been the most important is how our kids feel about themselves. And I think I learned it's really important how I feel about myself, which made my feelings totally change from the way that they used to be, which was pretty selfish, to the way that they are today. To be honest with you, that was a long answer. I don't remember the question.
It was a great answer. It was just talking about your journey to get to the point where you felt like a support group was needed.
And that's pretty much why I needed to know how other people felt. And because I wasn't sure how I was supposed to feel. And I think that was the thing that was scaring me, because now all of a sudden I have all these emotions that I never had before. And for me to help Maddie, I really needed to help me. And I think at the beginning, we just said, well, we needed a support group to help Maddie. Where deep down inside, I needed a support group to help me. And that was my way of basically admitting that I needed help, because prior to that, there's no way I would have went to get that help. So I kind of used Maddie's situation to help me, which inevitably helped her and the other kids that we deal with.
That's awesome. And today, CAP truly is an international organization. Did you ever think when you started CAP that it would grow to what it is today?
No, I expected it to be in my house and maybe going to a picnic every month or every other month and dealing with a couple of other families locally. It wasn't until probably that first year we started having different families, and there might have been like 3 or 4 families, mostly from the Philadelphia area, that would drive up to the Reading area, or we would go down, halfway, like maybe in King of Prussia, and would meet. And maybe one family would show up and the other 3 wouldn't be able to make it. And then the next time that we met, maybe another family would show up, and then the other three wouldn't make it. And there was a combination of 4 or 5 families that first year, never all being at the same picnic or the same event at the same time. So it was never 5 families every month. It was 1 family, 2 families. And then I discovered Facebook, which was like selling your soul to the devil, because it worked, and it worked so well. And I hated it so much that I had no choice but to continue using it, because now we started finding families from New Jersey and Maryland and Delaware and New York. And then it just started to like multiply over and over. And it was something that I had no idea. I never put a business plan together. I never put a marketing plan together. There was absolutely zero planning into this. It was totally, at first, selfish. And then it was altruistic, where I could really care less about what we were getting out of it. I just wanted more families to be involved. And just through tenacity, it just continued to grow. And then what we did was we adjusted to our growth instead of planning for our growth, which is why I think we were truly successful, because we didn't put any effort into it. We weren't thinking about how it was going to benefit us. We weren't thinking about how are we going to be able to afford to do the things that we want to do. We just basically got the money, and then we decided, okay, well, this is what we have to do now. Oh, we got more money, so this is what we have to do now. And this is after we became a nonprofit. We just kept on doing what we were doing until we accomplished what we wanted to do, and then we just had to think of more stuff to do. And now we have 50 CAP Kid groups around the country, and I believe in 4 or 5 other countries, in Canada, Mexico, Hong Kong, South Africa. We've been to all 50 states with a CAP to You tour speaking program, where I speak at schools. This past year, we went to families, and we went into the homes and donated books from our library program. That I purchased books about alopecia, where when I speak at a school, we donate the books to the school library, up to 8 books. So that way they have resources for other kids that have alopecia. When we were speaking in the homes, I would just go ahead and get a bag of books, put books and a bunch of CAP swag in it, give it to the kids. So that way, when they would get back to school, they would make the donation to the school of the books about alopecia. And by doing that kind of stuff in the camps that we have, we just continued to get more awareness out there, which then got more people coming to our camps and then requesting me to speak. And what I thought was going to be out of my house and a couple of local locations just naturally blew up in a good way.
Yeah. No. So I think what you do now, traveling around in the CAP van, is pretty cool. Speaking to the different schools. What is the general message of one of your talks when you go to a school?
It's simple. I think that's why CAP has always worked, because I never thought more than 5 minutes ahead of where I needed to be. It's simple. I tell my story. I tell about my selfishness and how alopecia really transformed me, transformed our family. I talk about the things that I did wrong, and the fact that as parents, we just keep on doing what we think is the right thing, even if it doesn't work out. And when it doesn't work out, you just keep on trying to do the right thing. So if you just keep on trying to do the right thing, you're eventually going to find that right thing. And sometimes it takes longer than it should, but if you continue to try, you're going to get there. And then really I talk about what alopecia is and what it isn't, so that way the stigma of alopecia is totally out the door. So if there's a child with alopecia in the school and they're being made fun of for things that have nothing to do with the alopecia, I pretty much set all the kids straight of what alopecia is. I show them a video of other kids with alopecia, kids that have flourished, kids that have been tortured and bullied every day. And I let them understand that everyone is different, and it's in that difference that everyone is normal. And I try to let them know that you could be the black kid or the white kid, the tall kid or the short kid, the kid that's overweight, the kid that's too skinny, the kid that's book smart, the kid that has no common sense, the kid that is brilliant, the kid that's a jock. Every single person that I speak to, just like every single person on earth, we're all different, and we all fit into that stereotype, whether or not you like it or not. We all fit into our own stereotype. I just want the kids to know that there's nothing wrong with that. But that stereotype, even within that stereotype, everyone is different. So whether or not you look like everyone that you hang out with, those people are just as different as the people that look totally different. So I just want the kids to know that they're perfect exactly the way they are, and that they're different, which makes them normal, and they're going to change. And they're going to change sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. And if they have control over the way that they change, they can change again. If they have no control over it, then guess what? That's when you own it. That's where you get to the point where it's like, well, I've gotten to the point where I can't change this anymore. So either I need it to be a crutch, so that way it helps me, or I own it and it doesn't define me. And that's kind of where we're at with the kids with alopecia. Their hair could grow back, it could fall out again, it could be a process where it's over and over throughout their lifetime. It could grow back and never fall out, or it could fall out and never grow back. So once you got to that point where change is no longer happening, own it, because you have no other choice. And if you don't own it, it's always going to be a crutch, and it's going to be something that rules your life, when your life really should be ruling what's going on with you and not the other way around.
Yeah, I love that answer. Absolutely love that answer. So you said as the evolution of CAP has gone, it started out with, a handful of families getting together for some picnics and just, being able to, be with other people who are going through the same thing. Those picnics have obviously grown quite a bit to what are now CAP camps all over the country. So tell me a little bit about, when did it go from just a picnic of a handful of families to an actual CAP camp event?
Geez, came a nonprofit in 2014. So 2015, 2005, 2006, I think Betsy brought up that we should have like a day camp. And I was still getting warm to the whole idea of like being that touchy-feely guy that I've always been, but I always tried to cover up. And I'm like, a day camp? I never went to day camps. And I'm thinking, well, day camp, that might be a good idea. So we contacted Camp Manatawny, and they said, yeah, sure. We have time and space. And I remember that they didn't charge us anything. And we just invited people to go to this day camp. They had a petting zoo. We did some camp activities, and then we ended the day with roasting marshmallows. So it was nice. And the feedback we got was just awesome. So we decided, well, maybe what we should do is let's do an overnight camp. And then the next year we did an overnight camp. And then we decided, well, let's do a weekend camp. And we did a weekend camp. And then I think in 2008, we basically had too many people. And then that's when we realized that we need to do this on a normal basis. So the first year that we had our first official camp, that was intended for everyone, not just people that live in our area, our tri-state area of like Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And that's another reason why we knew we needed to expand it, because we were getting more people from other parts of the country coming to something that was really meant to be more of a local thing. So we started Alopecia Palooza. Now, I didn't come up with the camp concept, but I did come up with the name. And I have no idea why I did that to myself, because it's one of the most difficult things for people to remember what it's called. So we like just to say Palooza. It's just easier that way. But Alopecia Palooza was started in 2009. And the first one was at the Philadelphia Sheraton Hotel. So we took the concept of camp outside and we brought it inside, thinking that would be the best place to have a camp. And we realized that it's not the best place to have a camp, but it was a huge success. It almost bankrupted us, but it was a huge success. And then we decided, well, you know what? It worked in the camp atmosphere. Let's not worry about the parents. If the parents want to help their kids, they're not going to care where they're sleeping for a weekend. They're not going to care about the bugs. They're not going to care about the camp food. We don't have to cater to the parents by having it in a hotel. We really need to cater to the kids, and the kids could care less where they're sleeping, whether they're muddy or dry or if the bugs are bothering them. They want to have fun. And the next year, we had the camp at Camp Canadensis in the Poconos, and that's where we really found what we were supposed to be doing, because it was life altering and changing to not just us, but also to every family and every child that came. And we just basically embraced it and embarked on that journey of every year we're going to have this big camp, and it's going to be someplace else in the country. And then we got to the point where it's really difficult to find camps all the time. And we were growing to 300, 350 people. And I decided that, well, let's just go ahead and let's have another camp on the West Coast. So that way people aren't upset when we're on the West Coast and the East Coast people can't make it, and vice versa. So then we had Cali Palooza on the West Coast. Alopecia Palooza would be on the East Coast. And then I decided there's a whole bunch of America that's not really represented by camps. So then we started filling in the dots. So now we have camps, Alopecia Palooza, which this year is in Pennsylvania. We have camps in Florida, North Carolina, Indiana, Texas, Colorado, Washington State, and then Cali Palooza, which is in California. And I think we're done adding camps. Oh, I'm sorry, and Wisconsin. Almost forgot them. So I think we're going to keep those 9 camps for now. And if for some reason there's a need, then we'll figure out how we're going to divert that money to make sure that we can afford to do another camp. But that's how the camp started.
It's awesome. So you talked a little bit how it was really the first camp that you guys did was really transformative for those who were there. I mean, I've been to some of your fundraising events back when you used to do big fundraising events, and we were still living in Pennsylvania. And, you know, you would always have some kids that had attended those camps at the events and speaking and stuff like that. And, you know, I know they would give some examples of what the organization was doing for them specifically, but are there any, you know, kind of stories of, and I'm sure there's hundreds of them, but can you give me a little example of one of those, you know, transformative stories of one of the kids that had gone to a camp?
Yeah, the easiest one to basically bring up is the most common one. And when I say the most common one, it's not just one, it's common in the majority of families and kids with alopecia that attend, and they may not have ever met another family going through this. So when a child comes and they're wearing a bandana or a wig or a hat, or they're wearing a lot of makeup to cover up the fact that they don't have eyelashes or eyebrows, all of that is basically to help them get through their day. It's their crutch that they're going to use to go through the day. And when you come to camp, let's say if you're a little boy and you're wearing a baseball cap and you never take it off, or you're a little girl and you're wearing a bandana or a wig all the time. When you come to camp, you're going to see other kids that look just like you, that you can tell that they're wearing a wig, or you can tell that they don't have hair and they're wearing a baseball cap. And you're going to see that. And then you're going to go, okay, well, guess what? I'm fitting in here because I see people that look like me. But wait, I see another little boy that has no hair on their body and they're not wearing anything. Oh, I see a little girl that she's not wearing anything. Oh, I see a little girl that has fake eyebrows on and they look pretty nice. And her head doesn't look strange. Oh, we're going to go to the pool. Oh, it's hot. Oh, we're doing a zip line. The wind. Okay, hey, Mom, can you hold my hat? I'm going to go on the zip line. And then the little boy never asks his mom for the hat back because now he's realizing how free he feels without that crutch. He just did a zip line. He had to climb up a ladder 40 feet that he was terrified to do and he didn't want to do, but then he did it and he had no other choice but to come down. And once he came down, he's totally like a transformed kid because his self-esteem was just boosted and no one did anything to boost it except for himself, for him doing it. So now you're forgetting things. You're forgetting to put the hat back on. If you're the girl and you're going swimming and you realize, wow, that wig is itchy, but I just took it off to go swimming. And just like every other kid in the lake or in the pool, nobody really cares. So, all right, well, when I get out, I'll take a shower. We're going to be doing this or that. And instead of putting the wig on, maybe they'll put a bandana on, or maybe they won't wear anything. And a lot of times they lose themselves in the moment. And the moment is, I think, where the magic happens. And they just realize that there's no one judging you. Everyone has your back at one of these camps because everyone's dealing with the same stuff. And you also get to put yourself in a pecking order where you get to see other kids that, maybe they have less hair and you're thinking, wow, they're doing a lot better than me and they have less hair. Or you'll see somebody that has basically a full head of hair. You don't even know they have spots and they're less secure than you are. So you know where you're fitting in with all these other kids. And I think that's a good thing because I think we all need order in our life. And that kind of puts you in an order. Now, do you want to be in the front of the line of that order or do you want to be at the back of the line of the order? And I think no one really wants to be at the end. And maybe we all want to be in the front, but it's just like being chased by a bear. We just don't want to be last. Because if you can be as fast as you want to be, but if you're last, then that's when the bear is a problem. So everybody wants to be at least in the middle of the pack. And I think that's what happens. And when it happens to the kids, this is where the magic happens with the parents, because the parents, they're not suggesting anything for the kids to take off the hat or the wig, or you don't have to put all the makeup on, or you would need to put that wig on. You need to cover up. You need to put that makeup on so you look like everyone else. So they're not making suggestions like that. They're just sitting back, talking to other parents about their situation, and they're experiencing this transformation in their child. And that's why there's magic at all these camps. It's inevitable because the kids are the ones that are actually doing it for themselves. And that's even more special for the parents because it helps them realize that they're not fixing anything. Sometimes instead of trying to suggest things to their kids, sometimes it's just easier to sit back and watch them grow on their own. And that's what camp really does for the kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. And reminds me of a saying that my mom used to always use, where she said, God only requires us to do two things as parents. And that's teach our kids how to walk and teach them how to walk away. And she said the second one is always so much more difficult than the first. And isn't that true as parents? I mean, we just want to constantly, no matter how old they are,
Yep.
we still want to be there and we want to protect them and keep them from getting, banged up and their scars. And sometimes it's just best that we let them go and let them learn those lessons on their own. So it's very cool that you get to see that, through all these camps in motion on a constant basis, for sure.
Yeah, I always tell people that no matter how great it is for the other people that are attending, Betsy and I and my family, we're blessed every time we do this because we get to see it all. And it transforms you. It makes you want to continue doing stuff, not so much because you're doing good for others, but because you're doing good, you know it, and it makes you feel good, which makes it addictive, and you want to continue doing it. So it's a win-win situation. I get my fix of feeling good, and the people that are attending, they get their fix for feeling good, and it's just a positive circle that continues, and everyone benefits.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so I think you and I have known each other about 10 years now, a little longer. And it's funny, when we first sat down and talked, you could kind of tell that we were both, kind of from the same mold. Not just because we both have lack of hair and little extra pounds, but
you can just say good looking guys. All right.
It's really cool to hear you talk about your growth throughout this process, personally. And, I want to have you talk a little bit. You've mentioned Maddie here and there. I mean, Maddie's now a young adult. And I know, me personally, I've always been super impressed with Maddie, just the way she, handles herself, and from a young age, from when I very first met her, to what she's become now. But, tell me a little bit about, watching Maddie throughout this whole process, from when she was 5, when, you first saw that she had alopecia, to, how she's coped and dealt with it and has just become the young woman that she is today.
Well, I'm happy that she was a very strong kid, because at the beginning we basically had her wear a hat to cover up, and deep down inside she never wanted to cover up. She never wanted to wear a hat. So when it came to that point that we had to figure out, well, how do we get this hat off of her because she doesn't want to wear it, she was on point the whole time. It was hard, and a lot of that was because of our decisions as parents, but she wanted to get to the point where she was Maddie. She always said that, I don't want to wear a hat, I don't want to wear a wig because I want to be like everyone else. And what she meant by that was she didn't want to look like everyone else. She just wanted to be like everyone else, where she wasn't wearing something to cover up and be different that way. She just wanted to be her. So in the very beginning, she was very easy to deal with when it came to knowing what we should be doing, because she would always be, she would be that beacon, that if the beacon is going off, we know what we need to do. But then if it got dim, we knew, okay, wait, we did something wrong. So instead of trying to figure it out on our own, sometimes we would just go straight to her. So when it came to the medications, we didn't make the decision to stop taking medications. She did. And we gave her that freedom to make that decision. When it came to wearing a hat, and she did it obviously when we told her to, but when it came to not wearing the hat, she's the one that said she never wanted to wear hats, so let's take the hats off. But she was afraid and she didn't know how. So she was really the person that controlled the destiny. And I think all of that stuff that happened early on, all that adversity, basically made her stronger, and she never kept a crutch. So by the time that, before she was 6 years old, she was now without a hat. So she had no crutches, and she didn't want any crutches. She just wanted to be Maddie. She didn't want people staring at her either, but she just wanted to be Maddie. And because we shoved alopecia down everyone's throat, she felt as if everybody in the world knew what alopecia was and that she had alopecia. So as a 5-year-old kid going on 6, she was just going to continue moving forward. And that's exactly what she did. By us doing CAP, by us having the camps, by her being at all of them, she didn't feel as if she was one of the kids that needed help. She now felt empowered to be one of the people that were helping. And she just continued doing that. So from the alopecia angle, she's been a superstar from day one. From being a little girl into a teenager into a young woman, she's 23 now, the same thing happened. And the incredible thing is, and this is why confidence is so important, her self-confidence really put her in a position not to be teased or not to be made fun of. Trust me, I'm sure people have made comments, but they were never done in front of her. They were never done to her. So that way she ever felt like she was being teased or bullied or made fun of or ignored. She was never ignored. She was a popular kid. And all of that was really her. And I think, like you said earlier, it's hard as parents to say, you know what, we're going to let you make your decisions until we tell you you can't make your decisions, because technically we're going to be making your decisions. But when you actually trust your kids, I'm not saying here's a case of beer, go drive and we'll see if you do the right thing or the wrong thing. I'm not saying to put them into any peril, but when you empower them to make decisions for themselves that will make them feel good about the decision they made, why would you want to make a wrong decision? You want to continue making good decisions, because just like I said about how I feel when we're helping kids, that's a drug that you can't get anyplace else. So you want to feel that way again. And I think Maddie felt the same way. So yeah, does she have soft spots? Is she weak in things? Yeah, absolutely. We all are. But she does a great job representing herself. And she does a great job in inspiring other people because of that strength that she has. Because I don't think there's a lot of people that would take me up on a challenge by saying, hey, if you think alopecia is not a big deal, and I bring a razor to every time we do something, I bring a razor and I say, I won't even shave off all your hair. I'll just shave off like maybe a 4-inch circle in the side of your head. Then I just want you to go about your day. Or I want you to wake up tomorrow morning and just do what you normally do without doing anything to cover that up. And I don't care how big and strong you are or how strong you think you are internally. It's not something that you really want to do, because you know how vain you are. You know how appearance is really important. And you know that you're going to deal with people staring at you and asking questions behind your back, or even worse, asking you, where'd the bald spot come from? You don't want to put up with that stuff. So yeah, Maddie, I'm not really sure where she found it. I think it's probably a combination of just the way that she's built and the fact that her mom and dad shoved alopecia down everyone's throat. And we did all this stuff where she got to witness that magic happening. And I think she just became contagious and she wanted to be part of it and move it forward.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So we're just about out of time, but before I get to my final question, is there anything else you want to mention about CAP? How can people get a hold of you if they want to, if they've got a child that has alopecia and they haven't heard of CAP yet, if they want to make a donation? I mean, how do people, reach out and get involved with CAP? And, again, anything that we didn't cover that you want to go over?
Yeah, I mean, if you Google Children's Alopecia Project, you'll find some form of venue that you feel most comfortable with, whether that's just going to the website, which is children'salopeciaproject.org, or to a social media page on Facebook or YouTube page. And sometimes it's just important to say, listen, I'll take donations every day for the rest of my life. I love donations, but it's more important to get to know who we are. So that way, if our mission is something that you relate to, then I want you to go ahead and give financially, but I want you to know what we're not. We're not out there to make money just to make money. The day that there's a cure or a treatment where we don't need to exist anymore will actually be a very, very happy day for me. So donations are appreciated, but it goes right back into the camps and to all the other things that we're doing with the library programs and the CAP2U tours and the 50 support groups. Facebook is where we're most active. So if you go to facebook.com/Children's Alopecia Project, you'll go to our main page. And then you can go ahead and search around and find where we have other groups. And that information is also at the website.
Cool. So as you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song titled Gloria, where the lyrics start off saying, many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. And it's funny because by the time I get to this point in the show, my guests have actually already answered this question over and over with what their mission is. But if you could put it into, one small paragraph, what are, some of the many little things that Jeff Woytovich does on a daily basis to make the world a better place?
It's really hard to say that. It's easy to say what I do. It's hard to say it in that direction because, and this is going to be a little bit longer of an answer, but I just try and get to 51% good every day. Not that I really have like a chart, but when you're having a good day or a bad day, I want to get to 51% because I'm no good under that. If I get to 51%, I'm having a good day. And just like I was telling you about the camps, you start to see the magic happen and you want to be part of it. And that's what I try and do. If I get to 51%, I don't want to go backwards. I just want to keep on going forward. And that just means keep on doing things that will help other people. So whether it's 52%, that 1% difference is huge. If I get to 53%, Jesus is the only person that ever got to 100%. And if you have another religion, whoever your Messiah is, they've gotten to 100%. They've hit that enlightenment area. I would love to be there, but I'm never going to get there. So if I get to 51%, every percent after that is just more things I can do positive for others. And I would hope that I was at 75% at one time, but even that seemed really high. I just want to continue doing as much as I can. And I measure that in how I feel about myself. So if I feel good about myself, I want to keep on feeling good. And if I'm feeling good, then I know somebody's being helped, whether it's one person or many.
That's awesome. I love that answer. So, Jeff, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your friendship. I love what you're doing. And appreciate you taking. I know this is a busy time of year for you with getting all the camps lined up. So for you to carve out a few minutes to do the podcast, I really do appreciate that. Without a doubt, for sure.
Well, anything for you. And you know what? I have one suggestion. When you're talking about the song, instead of just saying who wrote it, you really should sing it. That would be the icing on the cake there.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen, but I'll
take. You feel good at least.
I'll take it under advisement. How's
All
that?
Right, good. I'll do harmony.
There you go. So folks, again, for everybody out there listening, be sure to check out my other blogs and podcasts, danclouser.com. Jeff, once again, thank you very much for joining me, and appreciate everything you're doing out there for kids.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was great.